my name is Aditi, and my initiative revolves around tackling fast fashion with sustainable fashion. So, what's not to love about shopping and fashion? Escaping from a day off of all the stress and work to go to your local mall to buy the latest stylish clothing trend going around right now that you have been wanting so bad. Well, this of course. As you can see here, there are heaps and heaps of clothing in the world just laying around. The ocean is being mixed with dyes and toxins, and people are protesting on the streets for the end of fast fashion. Did you know that the average person purchases 60% more clothing now than they did 15 years ago, and these garments are only kept half as long? Well, these are only some of the problems that arise when you buy from fast fashion brands like these. But what is fast fashion, and what are the ways to avoid all these problems? Fast fashion is the mass production of cheaply made trendy clothes that are quickly coming in and out of style to get sold at low prices. It is a global issue and harmfully impacts the workers and the environment. In the fashion industry, many environmental corners are cut when producing clothes. Clothes are primarily made in the countries that still use greenhouse gases to fuel their clothing factories. These gases get emitted into the environment, which leads to climate change. Also, when producing clothes, the pressure of reducing costs and speeding up production time to get people to buy the newest trends as fast as possible causes the usage of cheap, toxic textiles that end up polluting clean water, naming the fashion industry to be the second most polluting industry in the world. Along with this, the speed at which trends are changing means that more and more clothes are being made for fewer amounts of money, resulting in a lack of quality and less closet life, causing clothes to be disposed of often. Therefore, more built-up textile waste in landfills that takes years to biodegrade. Fast fashion also has exploitative labor conditions like endless working hours with no breaks, unsafe working conditions like the exposure to toxic substances, child and forced labor, and extremely low wages that do not even meet the minimum legal wage. Sustainable fashion was introduced as a means to end the harmful impact of fast fashion on the world. Sustainable fashion is about producing clothing in environmentally, socially, and economically eco-friendly, ethical, and sustainable manners to, in the end, have an industry that works without leaving a negative footprint. Many different forms of sustainable fashion have been created and used individually, as seen on this image here. However, my initiative will use these factors together to tackle fast fashion and uphold sustainable fashion. Speaking of my initiative, it covers a span of 5 stages of implementation, and each stage is a milestone. These stages are planning, operations, delivering the end product, spreading awareness, and promoting sustainable clothes, and the continuation of the initiative. These 5 stages will cover these 5 main processes to make up my initiative. In a nutshell, my initiative begins by soliciting unwanted clothing and money donations from high net worth areas, since these are the people who normally shop from fast fashion brands. Then, connecting with fashion schools to solicit volunteer stylists and government centers to recruit paid tailors. Following, these tailors and volunteer stylists will be paired up to work together to create the new refurbished clothing from the unwanted clothes. After the refurbished clothes are finished, they will be taken to residential schools to be donated. Feedback on our clothing items and initiative will also be received. And lastly, a sustainable clothing line will be created, and the pieces in the line will be put on sale to be bought by the initial people who shop from fast fashion brands. Here is my initiative in more detail. In this very accessible spreadsheet, I have planned all the tasks of each stage along with an estimated timeline and amount of how much money they would each cost. Stage 1 is mainly planning out and identifying the stakeholders of my initiative for it to begin. In stage 2, we will start collecting funds and clothing from donors and recruit 3 volunteers and tailors. Then we will also sort the clothing out and deliver it to the volunteer stylists who will plan out the designs of the of the new clothing item and send it to the designated paid tailors who will follow the designs and refurbish the clothing into a new product. In stage 3, we will take all the new clothing items and deliver them to the respective residential schools. We will get feedback on the initiative and clothing here as well. In stage 4, part 1, we will create social media accounts to spread awareness about fast fashion, sustainable fashion, and our initiative, as well as connect with influencers who want to be brand ambassadors for our initiative. In part 2 of stage 4, we will create a sustainable clothing line on a website where the refurbished clothing items will be listed to be bought by others who are interested. To create the line, we have to plan out the types of clothing that will be listed or donated. because people are more likely to buy trendy in-style clothing. Therefore, that is what our line needs to consist of. Lastly, in stage 5, this is where the initiative will end. So I will be presenting it to organizations who are interested in the initiative to take it up and continue it. The tasks in pink also show that they consider money. Therefore, I made a financial plan as well. The total estimated amount of money my initiative will need is 66,000 rupees, since we will need money for transportation costs, for collecting unwanted clothing, paying the 3 tailors for each clothing item they make, gathering the equipment and materials for the refurbishing task, packaging the product and delivering it to the residential schools, spreading awareness about fast fashion sustainable clothing in the initiative, and setting up the website where the sustainable line will be run. Now, finally, the big question. Why will my initiative work? Well, I have already done a pilot fast fashion or sustainable fashion project for my school. My team and I researched about fast fashion, its impacts on the world, and sustainable fashion. We first went around and collected some unwanted clothes from people in our school. Then we learned how to embroider stitch on our clothes and create new creative clothing using fabric from the fashion teacher in our school. We implemented all that we learned onto clothing, and we presented it to the parents on presentation day and got lots of interesting feedback, like asking for the continuation of the project. So this initiative will sort of be like a part 2 for the one I did at my school. Also, fast fashion and its impacts on the environment and workers are already well known, because when scrolling through the news or Instagram and searching up the hashtag fast fashion, there are helpful posts explaining what fast fashion is, its environmental impacts, as well as all the advice on all the fast fashion brands to avoid. I believe that most people buy from fast fashion brands, not because they want to, but because they can only afford it, and they need a push in the right direction to go along the sustainable fashion path. And my initiative can be just that. If we stop supporting fast fashion brands and care about what we buy instead of throwing it away months later, we can save the world from this detrimental global issue. So that concludes my initiative on tackling fast fashion with sustainable fashion, and why and how I will implement it.